Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to Idle Game Chat. On this edition, we will be spoiling the shit out of Red Dead Redemption 2 and probably the original Red Dead Redemption. Nothing is off the table here, so if you haven't finished either of those games and you don't want anything spoiled, bail out right now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm joined by one of the chief spoiler merchants within the Dimp ranks. He's been away for a little while, but he's back. It's Mark Smith. Biff, how's it going?
Yeah, good, thank you, good. Just trying to keep the spoilers flowing, keep everything ticking over nicely for everybody.
Well, you can't be trusted, which is why you're on one of these spoiler cast things, because it's the only way we can get you on without, blowing something and ruining it for everyone.
Need to vent, don't I?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're here to talk about Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a huge game that's come out this year, perhaps the biggest game of 2018 in the gaming circles. But I did want to take a step back and just get your view of Rockstar themselves, and in particular Red Dead Redemption. And I guess the question is, do you rate their games highly? Are you a fan of them? And do you like the original? It's been 8 years since that come out, so it's been a little while. But is that a favourite game of yours?
Yeah, I mean, Rockstar are sort of the pinnacle. I think they don't seem to make a bad game.
Do you probably go best?
Back. Yeah, I would say in my little small humble opinion, yeah, not that it matters, but yeah, they are. I mean, they sort of every time they release a game, you're sort of fairly certain if you pay full whack for it that you're going to be satisfied with it. They're always sort of day one releases you want to get, and yeah, I had the original Red Dead, and that was fantastic. That was brilliant. Loved John Marston in it. Yeah. It was just a bit different. Sort of reminded me of GTA and the fact you can just roam around and do anything, as it was a free roaming game. But just, I don't know, Western games haven't really been done.
No, there wasn't really too many about. I mean, I remember there was a game called Gun that came out.
Yeah.
That I played for about 3 hours and never quite got into. But like you said, it's like a separate tier when Rockstar release a game. It goes into that top tier, and the quality of the game was just so much higher than anything else Western-wise that had been released. And obviously they continue that with GTA 4 and GTA 5, and now we get to Red Dead Redemption 2, and expectations were high. Now, I've actually reviewed the game. I doubt you've bothered listening to it because no one seems to bother within the ranks, but I gave it a 10 out of 10. Now, you've done one review for us in the past, and that was Horizon Zero Dawn, and you gave that a 9 out of 10. What do you think of that score I've just given Red Dead Redemption 2? Is it worthy of the extra notch? Or for you, would you have perhaps cut back and taken a couple of points off?
No, definitely 10 out of 10. If you're giving Horizon a 9, it raises
you gave it
the bar. Well, yeah, sorry.
You set that bar.
If I set the bar at 9, this is above that. To be fair, you could give it an 11. I know it's only out of 10, but it's that much better than that. It's sort of really, it's fantastic. It's just a fantastic game.
Yeah, and that's not to say, I mean, we both loved Horizon Zero Dawn, didn't we? So that was a great game.
Yeah.
It does show you, doesn't it, when Rockstar come to the table, they do present just something that's just a higher level. And it's really difficult for other games to get to that level. The only guys that probably consistently seem to be getting there is perhaps Naughty Dog with Uncharted and now The Last of Us, and we're looking forward to The Last of Us 2, but I can't think of many others that have been consistently good, and Rockstar have probably been doing it consistently well for the longest, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, the GTA Vice City was my first time I'd really sort of get my hands on a proper Rockstar game. And ever since then, everything they've ever released has been fantastic. They did what was the one where you were like a detective? I forgot the name of that one.
Oh yeah, LA Noire.
That was brilliant as well.
That.
Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. So yeah, everything they sort of do is well worth looking into and well worth playing.
Yeah, they also took over Max Payne and did the third one, and that wasn't groundbreaking, Max Payne 3, but it was a good game. I think they had other development studios doing it, but yeah, they've rarely put a foot wrong. The only thing, because I've played since back in the old GTA, like the top-down 2D, I've played that. I've played GTA 2 as well, which was top-down. Rockstar weren't fully formed then. They were kind of like, I think they're called DMD or something like that. It was quite small. Got picked up. GTA 3's when it kind of first cracked open for me. I was like, Christ, this is just amazing. I'd never really played anything like that. And I played most of their games. I think State of Emergency, Piper rented, and I went round his and we played it, and we was a bit like, oh, it's not GTA 3. We weren't really expecting that. And then the only other game I didn't finish or quite like from them was one called Manhunt. I don't know if you ever played that back in the day, but it's fucking brutal.
Yeah, I have heard about that one, but no, I never played that.
Well, it's probably most people have heard about it because it's the one that got quite a bit of news coverage because someone, I think it was in the UK, got a claw hammer and killed another kid and blamed it on Manhunt. So it got
As you would.
As you do, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
If you see something in a game, you go out and just reenact it and clave another kid's head in. So it kind of got, I think Manhunt 2 got highly censored when it came out because they didn't want another,
Clawhammer incident.
Clawhammer Mark 2. They wouldn't better get that off get the monkey off their back. But back to Red Dead Redemption 2. It's the first game since GTA 5. They take their time with it, but I think we've both established that it's probably worth it. Let's get straight into the story itself. Now, the setting for this is a little bit surprising. When you think, oh, Red Dead Redemption 2, you assume that you'll be playing or carrying on perhaps what happened previously. So you might say, oh, we're gonna follow Jack's story, or perhaps a little bit more of John, even though he dies obviously at the end of the first one. But we don't. This is a prequel to the original. We don't play as John Marston, although we'll come to why that's not technically true later on. But we primarily take control of Arthur Morgan. Before playing the game and before getting your hands on it and experiencing it, what did you think of that decision not to kind of carry on from the first game and giving us potentially a new character to play from?
I was actually quite happy about it because when you do Red Dead 1, I really loved John Marston. And then you play as his son. I just found him to be a bit of a dick. I didn't like his little catchphrases he used to say. Used to really annoy me. He used to have this thing where he'd jump on his horse, he'd slap the horse and say, "Run your damn nag." And he used to say it over and over again, and I'd be like, right, I really don't like this bloke. So I was quite glad that they because I thought, oh, I'm going to have to deal with Jack Marston. But I was quite happy when I found out I didn't, because I didn't really like him. Yeah.
Was you a bit surprised that he wasn't taking on the role of John? Because the franchise, the first one, is basically the John Marston story. And this is set in an era where John's still lurking about. He's in the game, but you just don't take control of him. Was you a little bit surprised at that?
Yeah, I was a little bit, because I just thought when they said it was going to be a prequel, I just assumed it would be, because you knew he run with a gang. I thought it would be the pre-story the story of him running in the gang, but you play as John Marston. I thought that was pretty obvious, but again, trusting Rockstar, and they will deliver the goods. Yeah,
the story itself, as I said, is kind of like in two parts. You've got the main story where you play as Arthur Morgan, and then there's an epilogue after that. Let's just focus on the main campaign for now. The story's quite long, isn't it? It's big, to say the least. You get your bang for your buck when you play through the campaign. It's going to be really hard for us to sit here and streak through everything that happens. But at a high level, what did you think of Arthur Morgan's story and the interactions he kind of had with Dutch and John and Bill and Javier, people who had been in the first game? What's your overall sense of what you experienced here? Good, bad, or indifferent?
I thought it's fantastic, because you sort of, I don't know why, but you sort of know, obviously because of you've played the first game, you know Arthur Morgan probably won't go the distance. I decided he was either going to leave, or he was going to die, and then but it's still sort of a shock. It's still sort of, I don't know. Things happen that you don't expect, and stuff happens that you think, oh, that's brilliant, or da-da-da-da-da. And the characters sort of have a real arc, but you don't, like, 1 minute you're with Dutch and everything's okay, and you think, oh, this bloke's really cool, and the next minute you're like, well, he's lost the plot. He's mental. This geezer's he's lost his marbles. But you don't sort of see it. It's no like crossover point. You just sort of sit there and everything's okay, and then but 40 hours later you're like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
It's mental.
It's like a slow burn, isn't it? With
Dutch. It is. Yeah,
well, it was funny, like because we were one of the first to finish it, us two, and it was funny just getting other people's opinions. And I think at some point, everyone texts us saying Dutch has lost the plot.
Yeah. I think my brother texted me saying that I'm worried about Dutch. He's losing the plot, and then you text me saying one of your mates had done it or something. Yeah, said like literally word for word the same thing.
It is almost like witnessing the Dutch breaking up. Arthur, who you take control of, is, I think he's like Dutch's right hand man. At least at the beginning, he seems like he's him and probably Hosea, who's like the old guy in the crew and whatnot. He's they're the two sort of lieutenants, if you will. And it starts on like a botched robbery in Blackwater, which if you've played the first, you're familiar with. And you start the game on the run. And to be honest, until the very end of the main campaign, they're on the run, aren't they? From either Pinkertons or the Law or Cornwall's Cornwall's like this big rail tycoon who they cross during the story. They're always being chased and having to move camp several times. And kind of as the game goes on, Dutch becomes more and more of a loose cannon. And there's a guy called Micah who's fairly new, I think, in the gang and is not being a good influence on Dutch, and Arthur doesn't agree where it's going in that direction. There's a conflict there, and all eventually boils over into a finale. But one of the interesting things about this is that John Marston, obviously at the end of the first one, gets completely blown away by the Law at the end, gets just devastatingly shot to pieces. At least in my version of Red Dead Redemption 2, because there's actually a couple of different endings depending on what choices you made, but Arthur contracts TB, and it's set into chapters. I think there's 6 chapters overall, and in the 6th chapter, at some point, Arthur gets ill and whatnot. So you spend this whole chapter with Arthur when he's fucking coughing his guts up and being ill, and that's really what gets to him at the end of the day, isn't it? It's that illness and just not being able to carry on with that TB.
Yeah, I mean, I did actually notice him coughing throughout the game, and I was going to text, because we've got that little group. I was going to put it in there and say, "Has anyone noticed Arthur coughing?" But I didn't want to, just in case anybody hadn't noticed it.
Yeah,
and then everyone would go, "Oh no, spoiler!" But because I don't know, it's really weird because it's so realistic. Obviously, I'm not going to say, I thought I was watching a film, because it's not, obviously, it's a video game. But I then had to take a step back and I was thinking, well, if he's coughing, someone has told him when he does his lines, the actor who plays Arthur Morgan, to cough. So I was like, he must be doing it for a reason. This isn't just for he hasn't actually got a cough and they've gone, don't worry, just leave it on the track, we'll cover over that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I did sort of have an inkling that he might have lung cancer or something like that. I didn't think it'd be TB. I'm not obviously a doctor, but yeah, and it is no, surprisingly. It is brilliant. Well, not brilliant, but it's sort of hard watching your character sort of just become quite weak, and you sort of, I don't know, he becomes quite vulnerable, and you just think, oh no, and he's coughing his lungs up, and he's done a big shootout, and he's lying on the floor and he can hardly move, and then some stranger picks him up, chucks him in a doctor, and he wakes up and he doesn't know where he is, and it's brilliant, absolutely fantastic.
The way you kind of get diagnosed with it's good as well, because the way it happened for me was I was on the way to meet Sadie, who I think is one of the great characters within the gang. I was on the way to meet her, and I was about 100 metres away from it, and then he sort of just started slowing down, and I was like, what the fuck? I thought the game was broke. I was like, what's going on here? And he just fell off the horse, and I was like, huh? What's going on? And you try and get up, and you're walking really slow, and then, like you said, he collapses, and someone takes you to the doctors. But it just dynamically happened within the game. Like, it wasn't that I went and triggered a specific mission. It happened. I'm guessing it's coded in some way to happen if you're in a certain area. But it felt really natural, because I was just on the way to do something, and then suddenly I was taken off into this other mission where you find out that he's got TB. And what's interesting about the game is that they give you the opportunity, like in the first game, to do good or bad things. Now, my view in the original was that Marston was kind of over all this stuff, wasn't he? He's over all the gang. It didn't feel right for Marston to be a baddie, essentially, or do bad things, because he's basically just trying to kill Dutch so he can get back to his family. Whereas we pick up in Red Dead Redemption 2, Arthur and the gang, they're sort of they're on a downward slope, but they're still doing bad things. So to start with, I was quite free with what I was doing with Arthur. I was robbing people, I'd kill the odd person, I would do bad things essentially just to cover my own back. And then as the kind of TB happened, it almost, I don't know if it's the way they intended it, but after that period, Arthur sort of reflects more on what he's been doing in the past and what the future holds, and he kind of predicts and says, look, this is all going down the shit pan now. Like, this is not going to work, what Dutch is doing. He's lost the plot and all that. And from then onwards, it kind of changed the way I was playing in-game to and to use the title of the game, to sort of redeem himself. Did you have that same experience, or was you just an arsehole throughout and, didn't care about what Arthur was saying in the cutscenes or whatever?
No, I agree. I think it was like that when you start, you sort of, I don't know, the fact you are testing things within the game as well, and you get a lot of things wrong, and then you end up killing 80 people because of, you've robbed a carrot or something like that. It does unfold quickly. But I sort of saw that as well, that the fact that you'll do side missions, and I think there was one with a nun, and he starts talking to her about, can a bad man be a good man? Can he? And he's sort of reflecting upon his own life, isn't he? And thinking, I've done a lot of bad things, but if the last thing I do is something truly good for the for the good of the group, will that sort of redeem me? Yeah. And it was really interesting. But I did think that as well. And then I started playing the game differently because I didn't want him to be an arsehole. I wasn't just hog tying people up and chucking them off waterfalls. I was trying to be good.
That bandit deserved it, to be fair. That wasn't just. I was trying to put him on the train track because of the long and short of it. A bandit attacked me, and I thought, I want to see what it looks like when someone gets run over by a train. And they didn't turn up for a day, so I just chucked him off a waterfall in the end. But that wasn't just a random person that I grabbed. So it's not. It's not. Too
I like the way you're trying to sort of.
That's what happened. That's what happened. That's not a bad thing. They shot at me first. I'd done them the favour initially by not killing him. I thought I'd hog tie him, and I thought, you know what, they scare him a little bit. They've been terrorising, the West for a while. He can be put on a train for a while, but he was just lucky the train didn't arrive. Second place to go is off a waterfall.
Clearly.
And funny enough, there's a lot of secrets in this game. I found this secret note and hat up there, which is weird. But one thing we will come on to is all the different secrets and how big the game is, because outside this campaign, there's so much to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I think was good is that things all do come ahead, and eventually Arthur's like, this isn't going to work and whatnot, and that you do a big heist with the gang one last time on a train. Sadie, who's one of the characters that Arthur kind of bonds with during the process. What I like about Sadie's arc is that when you first meet her, she's in the first mission, she's in this house. The O'Driscolls, who are a gang, they're a rival gang, have just killed her husband. I think she's hiding in the cellar somewhere. And Dutch and Arthur go in there, and they clear out the O'Driscolls. And she comes up, and they take her in. So she goes from this hysterical, broken housewife to this hard case nut job within the gang. But she gets kidnapped, and you eventually, get her free and take out the guy that's been tracking you down, the leader of the Pinkertons, and then there's a showdown with Dutch and Micah and whatnot, and there's a couple of decisions you can make that change the ending. The one is that you're trying to basically, towards the back end of the game, Arthur's aim is to get as many people out and safe of the gang as possible, and the main one seems to be John, Abigail and Jack, doesn't it? He kind of sees them as having hope. They're not beyond repair. If they can go off and have a family properly outside of this life, then he'll deem that as a good deed. And I think the big choice it comes down to at the end is you're on the run from Pinkertons, the law, and also there's been a showdown with Dutch, and who's going to be on Dutch's side, who's going to be on Arthur's side. And you and John escape together, and there's a choice of going back to get the camp stash, the money that you've been building up throughout the game, or helping John escape. What did you do in that situation? For me, it was a no-brainer just to help John.
Yeah, that's what I did as well. Boring, really. Just goody two shoes, just trying to help John. But it was because, I don't know, I made the decision because Arthur seemed really keen on living his life through John, and he was like, do you know what I mean? Like you say, he could go on to have the kids and have a real family, and then Arthur talks about the son that died, and I think he's sort of thinking, I can live my life through them even if I die, by making sure that they sort of survive and get out of this shit mess. Yeah. So that's what I did as well.
Yeah, so that's sort of what they call the honourable decision. You have a showdown with Micah and have a fight with him. Dutch rocks up. Seemingly Dutch, who's been almost influenced a little bit too much by Micah, kind of walks away from Micah and just leaves him on his own, and eventually Arthur just sort of dies from the disease watching the sunrise. And that's if you make that choice. I think if you go back for the money, there's a different outcome there. But yeah, your prediction was true then. He didn't get away this time. He just rotted and died on that rock.
Yeah, it's quite sad actually. I felt quite sorry for him, but it was a good end. I think it sort of all come to a head, and then, like you say, you sort of see the true characters come out, and they're sort of I don't know what the word is. I fucked it. Yeah, but you sort of, it all comes to a head, and it sort of closes Arthur Morgan off quite nicely. I think just him standing over the tall mountain, looking over him, it sort of plays a bit of music and that, and it's quite a nice ending to his story.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to go out. I mean, I've not seen what the other ending is, so I don't think it's quite as nice as that.
Yeah.
It's strange because the game itself doesn't have like a constant, what they'd call an antagonist, like a baddie, really. Like you've got Agent Milton, who's from the Pinkertons, who kind of tracking you down. You've got Levictus Cornwall as well, also. They're the two sort of people against the gang, but it's almost as though the enemy slowly becomes Dutch, but more so Micah, really. Micah seems to be the one in the camp that Arthur clashes with the most. I think in one of the early missions you go and rescue him, and instead of just leaving, he goes and shoots up and slaughters Strawberry, like half the town. He's been a bit of a loose cannon. What did you think of that sort of way to structure it, where you've got outside antagonists, but really the problem of the story itself is what's happening within this camp, within this little community? Yeah,
I mean, it's like I said about the sort of the arc of the story. You sort of don't really notice it, and then before you know it, you're like, are we the bad guys now? We were the sort of the Robin Hood, sort of stealing from the rich and sort of keeping it for ourselves and trying to genuinely build a better life for us. Then we could get out of here and wipe the slate clean and everyone have a fresh start. Yeah. And then it sort of doesn't become about that. And then he sort of puts things off, and it's one last job, and you sort of see it sort of all unfolding, and the paradise that they're promised is sort of a false hope, really. It's just to keep everyone in line.
Yeah, it's interesting with Dutch because he's constantly going, we need more money, one last job. And it's like he's constantly waffling on about getting money and then moving away somewhere. So that's his main motivation. And then if we skip forward a little bit, there's an epilogue. So once Arthur dies, you then take control of John Marston.
Yep.
So you get this like little 2-part epilogue, which I guess is there to sort of join up the end of 2 and the start of Red Dead Redemption. It kind of like fills that hole of what John's been doing. I guess for those that were frustrated or sad that John dies in the first one, Red Dead Redemption 2 kind of gets you to leave the game with John on a happier note. Like he's got his ranch, his wife's there, his kids there, fucking uncle's there, that lazy little bastard. He's funny. But what did you make of the epilogue? Some people might have complained about that because it's quite slow in places in terms of when you're on the ranch, just trying to get a job and help, that initial ranch that you fall across. What did you make of the epilogue? Was that a good move to let you play as John for the remainder of the game and clear up any side quests or challenges you haven't done?
I did find it a little bit slow because when you're Arthur Morgan, you're running in, a ruthless gang, and you're doing a lot of, ruthless stuff. It's exciting. There's levels or chapters where you're going out in 7 or 8 people, riding the gang, chasing down a train, or then going to, I think it's the Braithwaite's Manor, and you're blowing it up and shooting everyone. And then you have all this action, all this sort of, busyness going around you. And then it's like, oh, can you pitchfork shit into a wheelbarrow? And it's like, okay, what's happened here? Something's gone wrong. Because it is just about the story of John Marston getting his ranch and setting it up for Red Dead 2. There is a little bit of action with Sadie. She helps you earn money to get your ranch up and running. Yeah. And there's the conflicts with his wife Bonnie, isn't it? No, not Bonnie.
No,
Abigail.
Yeah.
That he's doing bad things again, but he's sort of in his head, he's saying, well, I'm doing bad things to give us a fresh start. So it's sort of like the life that Dutch wanted, but John Marston actually wants to see it through. Yeah. Whereas Dutch lost his way a little bit. And Abigail's worried that John's going to go back to his old ways of, shooting up places. But I thought it slowed it down quite a bit. And it was a bit difficult because I was used to having all the guns on tap and I could just walk around and you lose all that and you're just sort of a farmhand, and it does slow it down quite a bit. But it's still, I don't know, it was still quite fun.
Yeah,
it's still weird.
It was good. I mean, I can see why they've done that. Obviously, they need a way for you to play and finish the end game. One idea is that they could just put Arthur back into the game before the ending, basically, and then you can go around and do stuff. But it doesn't quite work as well. So taking over as John, I think it's like 8 years after as well. So it's quite a long time after, and they're trying to live like an honest life. They find work at a ranch, like you said, and you are shoveling shit off a pitchfork and putting it in wheelbarrows.
Yeah.
And then basically Sadie and Charles is another member of the gang who was a number, but you kind of bump into those two. And then there's rumours that Micah is still lurking somewhere, and eventually you, Charles, and John, who you play as, and Sadie, go and find Micah to find and finish him off, basically. And as you're in a conflict with Micah, Dutch comes out of the fucking door. 8 years of the past, he comes out, and there's like a little showdown where you're talking to Dutch, talking to Micah, and Dutch, surprisingly, shoots Micah and then just leaves in silence, just walks away. You as John finish off Micah and put to bed that cunt, because John constantly references Arthur, saying how he'd helped him and that Micah was responsible for his death. They recover the stash from Blackwater, which is where the game kicks off just after. So that there's rumours that Dutch had stashed that somewhere. They couldn't go back and get it because they were wanted men. And then John can pay off his bank loan that he's got, and he's got his ranch and goes off to marry Abigail. What did you think of Dutch appearing in that last part? Because I was a bit shocked to see him. I thought we won't see Dutch again, because the Red Dead Redemption 1, most of the game is you trying to track down Dutch.
Yeah, I must admit, I didn't think we'd see Dutch again. I thought when the Arthur Morgan chapter closes, I thought that would be the end of Dutch, and the next time we'd see him would be Red Dead 1. So I was quite surprised to see him as well. I was a bit confused by the whole ending, the fact that Dutch had been knocking around with Micah for 8 years, and then John sort of said a few words, and then Dutch just shot him, and I was like, oh, that's the end of that. But
it might have been, he said, to convince me.
Yeah, that's all it took. But it might have been something to do, because I do think that Dutch sort of held Arthur in quite high regard, and that was always his right hand man. And when that come out, Dutch might have always thought that was the case, that Micah didn't trust him, and Arthur didn't trust Micah, and that's why that the Pinkertons were on him, etc., and he was working for them. And maybe that all just come to fruition. He thought, fuck it, I'm just going to blow him away and I've cut all ties of everyone, and then I can just walk away and start again. But
maybe it was a cleansing process. What's interesting is he walks away from that Blackwater stash, which I think you get 20 grand when you finish that mission. So as John, you can buy whatever you want at that point. And it's interesting if you flick back to what he was saying for the majority of the game, he's talking about, we need more money, we need to do this, we need to do that. And so at that point, I think, he's obviously motivated by having, being rich and whatnot. But he walks away and leaves this Blackwater stash of tens of thousands of dollars, and makes me wonder whether actually he was just using the money thing as an excuse just to keep the community together and keep power almost. Because you'd have thought that if he was interested in money, he would have taken that Blackwater stash with him and gone, right, leave me alone, John, that's the end of it.
Well, I didn't really even notice that bit. It sort of just brushed right past me. It's only when you text me saying that was, that he left the money. And now you look back at it, you think he was only in it for the power. That is what he was interested in. He wanted to keep control of everyone. He wanted his little band of merry men and everyone to sort of stand in line. And then when you look back, Arthur Morgan not being in line and sort of going against him and questioning him is sort of when it all unfolded, really. I don't think he was interested in money, and I think it was a false hope. I just think he just wanted the power and wanted to be in charge and be the kingpin.
I think, and my memory might be poor here, but my memory of the first game is that when you finally go to get Dutch, he's got another gang. You go to a campsite and he's already built up another gang, so he's almost like a leader again. And they don't look like they're living the most luxurious life, but again, he's convinced people to follow him. He's acting as though he's some sort of demigod that's walking around. So maybe that's all we want. Maybe that's all he's ever wanted, is to have a gang of men following him, and he can be the leader of them, hand out his shit advice.
My memory's a bit hazy on the first one. I started playing it and then got about halfway through, and then binned it off or something. I can't remember. Yeah, so it's a bit of a problem. I didn't finish that, to be honest, because I could have answered that, but no, I can't remember now.
Yeah, that's my memory of it anyway, and someone can correct us if not. I don't think you just meet him randomly. Like, you definitely have to fight through, and they're saying, he's built up an army of X amount of people. And I think, actually, some of them are Native Americans. So there's a small part of the game which focuses around that kind of conflict where he leans on the Native Americans to stir up basically a war, so he can, the gang can profit, as he calls it. So maybe there's deliberate links there, but that segues quite nicely onto what I thought one of the best parts about the story itself was that in Red Dead 1 you don't really know who Dutch is. You only hear through hearsay what he's done and what he's like. Same with Bill. I think Javier's in it as well. I believe he's one of the ones that you end up hunting down.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And John. So those characters that you're playing as, and the other three you're hunting down. You get a sense of what they're like, but you never really get to see it. And what Red Dead Redemption 2 does retrospectively is completely flesh out all of those characters. Perhaps not Bill. I think maybe Bill doesn't get quite as much airtime, but certainly Dutch, who's the main person you're hunting down in 1. If you go back and play 1 now, it makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I think anyway. Do you agree?
Yeah, no, I do. He's really interesting, I thought, and he's very charming, and he gets people to do things, and and you can. I know what you mean, that he was sort of the best character, I thought, overall. Yeah. Even with Arthur, as much as I did like Arthur, I don't know, I enjoyed seeing his charm and the way he had big plans and it all sort of falling apart and his fall from grace. And then, I did think he was the best character. Like you say, you don't really see a lot from Bill Williamson, and you don't really see that much from Javier either, do you?
No.
It's really. Sort of quite minor. And other characters that you don't really know about from the first game. So Sadie Adler's quite a big one. I quite like Charles as well. He was quite a big character in it. I thought he was quite interesting. The fact he was sort of from, I think he was black and he was Native American, wasn't he, all in one? So he had sort of a lot going on, in his background, and it was quite interesting. Yeah,
no, I think they do a good job, because one of the things that, as we've perhaps seen with Star Wars prequels, is it's there, you kind of expect it'll fill in all these gaps, and it does, but sometimes they can fall a little bit flat, although we know you're a big fan of the prequels. We won't say no more of that, but to me, this acts not only as its own self-contained story really well, but also kind of extends and makes the first game a lot more, a lot more riding on it now. You know what's happened and what's gone on. I am really tempted to go back and play it, but like you said, I don't know if I'm going to get through it because it is 8 years old now.
It will look a bit rough.
It might creak a little bit. In terms of campaign missions, did you have any favourites that you played through? For example, I think both of us like the Braithwaite Manor mission, where all 7 of you go out on your horses and basically go to get back Jack, who's been kidnapped at some point, and then you end up burning the manor down and clearing it out. But I think that was that felt like the big mission where the gang, all the blokes in the gang anyway, all go together and just completely rip this place apart.
That was that was actually my favourite one, because I felt that was when everything was at its pinnacle. So everything was running like clockwork. Everyone was under the same roof. Everyone sort of wanted.
Dutch had his Holy Land at that point.
Yeah, everything was okay. Everything was running to plan. And then when you ride out as that bigger group, it was sort of really. It was just cool. I just thought this is awesome that we're in where I'm actually in a gang and we're all riding out and we all know what we've got to do and we're all doing it. And it was for something good. It was because you wanted to get John Marston's son back, and it's only after that mission you think, fucking hell, Dutch is really dragging his heels about getting him back, and he's like, he's fine, don't worry, we'll get him. But that was my overriding favourite mission. I really did like that one.
Another one I liked, I think it's called A Quiet Time, and it's where it seemed an innocuous one. I think it's with Lenny. It is with Lenny. You go to the camp and start talking to him, and Arthur's like, oh, should we go to Valentine, which is the local town? Should we go for a drink? And they just go and have a fucking piss up, basically, that mission is.
Oh, yeah.
You and Lenny just get absolutely off your boil, just absolutely going mad, drinking for God knows how long, getting pissed up, sick. You have to try and find him. It's just a nice, sort of fun mission to play, and it kind of builds that relationship with Arthur and Lenny a bit more, which I think was good, because throughout the game, I think Arthur's quite fond of Lenny.
Yeah.
Who tragically dies in one of Dutch's master plans. Not got a good track record, is he, Dutch, at leading through these big robberies? Always.
Someone always loses.
Yeah, but I really liked that one. That was definitely one. And there's another one where I think you go with Dutch to meet these guys about getting a boat to get to Bronte's mansion in the swamp, and you go and help them get crayfish out of cages.
The alligator.
And there's fuck off alligators in the swamp. And that's a very slow mission, but it's all the dialogue throughout is good. And then at the end, it really ramps up with you have to go and get one of the guys. He falls into the water and gets bitten by the alligator, and then you jump in there and pick him up and have to get him through the swamp. And you look behind you, and there's this fuck off massive albino alligator chasing you.
It's a bit like Jaws-esque, isn't it? So
yeah, it was.
See why you like that.
Yeah, it absolutely was. But those were sort of my favourite 3 missions on there. But I think in general, playing through it, I was a big fan of the missions themselves. Did you find them to be of satisfactory quality? That's one of, I think, Rockstar's staples, is making good missions and main campaign missions.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really. There's no sort of mission that I remember playing and thinking, oh, that was a bit of dead air time. That was like everything was sort of, I don't know, there was always a reason you're doing something. It always explained something. And even the ones that, like that one where you're just pissing about with Lenny, just getting pissed up, it's lining it up, because you don't realise at the time, but when Lenny dies, you then care about it, because you was like, no, because you like Lenny because of that one mission where you don't really do anything. So they are good at, like you say, doing that and linking that and building characters together, and they sort of know what characters you're going to like and what characters you won't like, but you don't realise they're doing it until they're dead or you've got your hands around their throat. Do you know what I mean? So that they are quite clever in that case as well.
Yeah, they definitely like to plant their seeds.
Yeah.
Who are your sort of or were your favourite camp members? Not many of them made it out alive, but a couple did.
I liked Hosea. He was good. It's just a sensible brain.
He's like the wise old one, isn't he? He's like the older one who's sort of, he's known Dutch the longest and always the man of, compromise or, just scaling things back a little bit. Keeps Dutch on a bit of a lead, but even he starts losing his influence because Dutch is like off on one.
I think he was the one that sort of starts the ball rolling with Arthur Morgan and starts saying, look, I don't think this is for the best of the group. He's the one that can sort of see it unfolding. Yeah, basically. And Sadie Adler, I thought she was brilliant. She was an absolutely quality character.
Yeah, she comes from nothing. It comes from like a terrible start to the game. She's just had her husband killed and doesn't know what she's doing. She gets taken in by the gang, and then becomes quite the mercenary and quite the formidable gang member. One of
the best missions, actually, thinking about it, was when you go and kill some O'Driscolls with her. And she goes berserk, and she's like got a knife, and she walks out of like a little cabin, and she's just covered from head to toe in blood, where she's been like slitting. I know it sounds brutal, but she's like slit some geezer's throat or stabbed him for the heart or something. And I was like, cool, marriage material.
Yeah, I see. Absolutely. I did wonder whether they would end up getting together, but it wasn't to be in the end.
No.
And I think we mentioned Charles. He was good value. So Sadie and Charles get out alive at the end, which was good. I think it was good to have some people that didn't get killed. Lenny dies in the same mission as Hosea, so it's a double stinker, that one.
Yeah,
and that's
I like Lenny as well.
Yeah, and it's a shame that Lenny and Hosea had to die, but I suppose it adds to it. And that's the mission right before you get washed up on the Cuban island. I think it's Palmyra. What did you think of that? Because that, again, it completely comes out of nowhere, and you're for 4 or 5 missions. It's not the longest chapter, but you're stranded on this Cuban island, like a tropical like jungle almost, helping, and there's like a resistance and a little war going on. What did you think of that? Because some people, I believe, weren't a fan of it because it slowed things down or didn't feel like it was necessary.
I don't think it slowed it down. It just sort of seemed a bit rushed and false. That was my only problem with it. There were some good missions in it, and the sort of things getting attacked, but they sort of got quite involved in the politics of the island, and they'd only been there for about 5 minutes, and I was like, right, I don't know what's going on here. And then they were like fight freedom fighters basically for the locals against, and it did seem a bit rushed, but I quite liked it. I thought it was quite good. I thought they could have maybe dragged it out a little bit longer, just to sort of build the story up, because it did seem a bit, do you want a boat? Yeah, okay, well then we'll help us basically. And that was sort of it. But I quite liked it. I thought it was pretty decent, and it was totally it wasn't like a reskinned
No.
like environment. It was totally fresh, like jungle, different animals, everything.
Yeah.
It did look really good.
I think there's animals there you can only find there as well.
There was. I remember shooting a parrot.
Yeah.
It had like a macaw parrot or something like that. So yeah, you're not going to get that in the wildlands.
No, I don't believe you can go back there though, can you? Like once you're out there. I don't think you can go back and.
No, I don't think so. No.
Yeah, but not the end of the world. I think to actually 100% the game, you don't need to find every animal.
Oh right.
I think there's like a certain percentage you need to get, but that'd be a bit of a stinker if you did have to, because you have to make sure on that chapter you pick it clean, otherwise you end up with nothing.
Yeah.
Got to ask the obvious question. We've now played 2 Red Dead Redemption games, one as Arthur, one as John. Who's better? Who do you prefer?
Right, you asked me this halfway through the game when I was Arthur Morgan, and I said John Marston, and then when Arthur died and I started playing as John Marston, I wanted to be Arthur, so it's got to be Arthur. I don't know why, you sort of grow to love him, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, he's dead, and then I don't know, I was just getting a bit annoyed with John, and his wife kept bitching and moaning. I was like, oh, fuck off, Abigail. Arthur had it right. Just do your own thing. Not have kids to worry about. And wiping asses teach them how to ride ponies. So,
yeah, I think Arthur's... like in Red Dead, like John's in like one mode. Obviously, his family are being held by the government, and they're like, help us, or you can't see them. So he's just... go and kill Bill, Javier, Dutch. That's the straightforward synopsis of it. But I don't feel like he has... like, obviously, he has no qualms about taking out either of those 3. There's no like conflict in his head. Like, he's got a job to do. He just wants to carry it out. And he's seemingly been living a normal life as we end this game. He's got his own ranch and whatnot for X amount of years. So he's not like he's getting dragged back into the underworld or the crime world once he's got his ranch paid off. And I feel like Arthur had a lot more complexity about him. He was conflicted. There was more grey areas for him to experience and go through. And I think that just made him a much more interesting character, because he didn't really know what the right or wrong thing to do was. And it's only through time, and probably when he gets his illness, that he reflects on it and thinks, actually, I know what I can do to be good, and it's do this. Whereas John was just doing it because he had to get his family back at the end of the day. So his mission was very straightforward. Yeah,
no, I do agree with that. But it's when you're playing Red Dead 1, you don't realise. Obviously, I really like John in Red Dead 1. I know you said that it was a bit, because he just done things because he had to. It wasn't sort of a conflict of interest with him. But I really like John Marston. But it's only when I played as Arthur that I thought, yeah, no, he's a lot better. Arthur is better. There was more to him, and I don't know. I just really liked Arthur in the end, and felt quite sorry for him when he was dying. Very sad.
It is sad. And the sick thing is of the game is that when you take over as John, so in the epilogue, it's 8 years later, all of Arthur's outfits are there, and you can put them on John. I was like, oh, that's gross. I don't want him wearing Arthur's stuff. That feels really wrong. Like, I've spent 60 hours playing as Arthur, and now John's put his hat on or something.
Oh no, I always made him wear Arthur's hat as like a nod to say thank you to Arthur.
Yeah, it's funny actually, because he puts that on for the final mission. Like, if you start the mission not with Arthur's hat on, because when you leave John, you give him your hat and your satchel. So throughout the game, everything that happens, Arthur's got a journal. He writes everything down. His satchel's got all that information in it, and he gives him his hat. And then, as you go to take on Micah, you put the hat on before the start of that. It doesn't matter what hat you're wearing at the start of the mission. When the cutscene plays of them camping and then working their way up the mountain, at some point he changed his hat. So I thought that was quite a nice nod to keep and put on Arthur's hat for that final bit where you wipe out that prick Micah.
That's why Dutch shot him. He saw Arthur's hat and he thought, oh no, poor Arthur.
I think by my point, my hat had been blown off by someone, so it was halfway down the mountain. But yeah, I mean that could be something that had happened. But yeah, so you carry on as John, and the events of the first game start falling into place, because I think you see, is it Agent Ross and Fordham, who are the guys from the first one? They start observing John's ranch, and that's a foreshadow of how the first game starts. Like they obviously take into consideration and get John and his family from there. So it leaves at that point in the credits if you watch all through those. But knowing you probably didn't. Gameplay mechanics. What did you think of the camp mechanic, where you have a camp that you can put money into a box to help build up morale and take food back and bits and pieces like that to help everyone that's in there, Lenny, all the other camp members? I think it's about 13 or so of them. What did you make of having this camp that occasionally had to move location, but you could go back to look after essentially and maintain?
I quite liked it. I like having like a little home, as it were, to go back to, a little sort of base. It can be a bit frustrating because you couldn't run around the camp, you could only walk, and that at times really got on my nerves, just really sort of slowed it down. The only thing that bugged me was that I put a lot of money into that camp, chucked a lot of, and then it just all blew up to nothing. It was pointless. And then you'd go out hunting and you could sort of put little shitty bits on the camp, so you could have like a bear skin as a rug or something like that, or you could have a skull on your end of your wagon, and then it didn't mean fuck all because we lost the camp in the end. So I was a bit gutted by that, but no, I quite like the mechanic of then you'd have to hunt, and every time I went back to the camp I sort of felt important because I'd have like a buck on the back of my horse, and they were like, oh, thanks for the meat, and you'd make a little stew out of it. It made you feel like you were keeping the camp ticking over and everyone else was, well, I don't know what the fuck they were doing, they were useless, but it sort of seemed that I was the one that was doing everything.
Yeah, makes you feel important, that's for sure. And when you walk around the camp, you can do like chores and things like that to help with it, and you can talk to people as well. So sometimes I would just wander around and talk to people. There's a mission where actually you go and save, I think the guy's name's Sean, who ends up dying during the game, but you save him from some bounty hunters, and then you bring him back to the camp. And then if you leave the camp, then come back like a few hours later, Dutch starts off like a party to welcome back Sean. So you have like these milestones that happen in the game to do the story, and then the characters like will have a party basically for the night. So any missions that you wanted to do, you can't do. You just sort of wander around getting pissed up and talking to people, and they do that a couple of times throughout the game, and it just helps. You just get to speak to everyone and get to know all the camp members. So it's important when things do come to a head, or if someone's in a situation that's dangerous, it makes you feel a little bit more attached to them. One really clever thing they do with the epilogue, to tie it back to the main game, are things like the stranger missions. Because if you don't finish any of the side missions, like the stranger missions they're called in this, because Arthur's been writing them down in his journal, when you pick up as John, you can go back and do those missions and carry on with them. So if you go and visit a stranger and you've done, I don't know, 2 of the 3 missions that are in that stranger strain, John will turn up and say, oh, I knew Arthur, he wrote all this stuff down. Then you can like pick up and finish the mission. It's quite cool how even if you miss or don't do a stranger mission, you can still carry them on as John, and he's got his own unique dialogue with them. They might chat about Arthur and how, what they thought of him and whatnot, but the stranger missions themselves sometimes are more interesting in the main campaign, at least in past games or other open world games like side quests. What did you think of the stranger missions, and did you have any standouts from that? Yeah,
I mean, we spoke about sort of this before, and this is the difference between something like Horizon and something like The Witcher or GTA or Red Dead. It takes it the notch above when the sort of the side quests and the things that don't really matter to the story are so good, and it takes it sort of the next level. I mean, they're brilliant. They're so sort of imaginative and random and stupid, and there's one of the standout ones is that a bloke owns a circus, and he has like a convoy of wagons, and he keeps the animals in them, and he's crashed and all the animals have escaped, and you have to go and get them. One of them is a zebra, but it's a donkey painted black and white. One of them's a tiger, but it's actually a cougar painted orange and black. And then he has to go and collect a lion, and you assume and then Arthur jokes it'll be a dog with some fluff around it, and it turns out to be an actual lion, and then it fucking tries to rip you apart, and it has nothing. It adds nothing to the story. But you keep going back to this person, and you keep helping them, and keep doing it, and then you sort of it's like a little mini quest, and they're fantastic. There's another one where there's a bloke, and you have to help him take photos of animals. He's always getting in trouble. I quite liked him, and I grew attached to him, and I was gutted because I was like, I want him to come back to the camp and be part of the gang. And
cool, dragging him into that hellhole.
It'd been dead within a week. But you sort of grow attached to certain people. There's some geezer with only one leg as well, isn't there? Did you meet him?
Yeah.
He's quite good. He's quite a character, and you go fishing with him, and then you do a bit of hunting with him.
That's sad, that one, isn't it? Because, like, there's 4 stages that, like, you find him, don't you, out in the wilderness somewhere, and I think his horse has bucked him off. And he's got one leg, so you go and get his horse, help him get his leg back, all that stuff. And he's like, if you ever want to go hunting or fishing with me, come down to my shack by the lake. And you go down there and chat to him and do like a fishing mission with him and another sort of tracking mission. And then you hunt. I think, is it a boar or something? I can't remember what it is now.
Yeah, but it sort of gives him a fatal wound or something, doesn't it? Yeah,
and then you've kind of like made this friend. And I was doing this in chapter 6 when Arthur was ill and not very well, and was kind of like at that stage I was being good essentially, and like it felt like a nice thing to have. And then the poor cunt gets killed like by this wild boar or whatever it is, and he gives you his horse called Buell.
That's it, yeah.
And he was like, look after Buell, he's a good horse. And I was like, oh, God, that is heartbreaking, seeing him die, and now I've got his horse. And to really sting it home, I had Buell for quite a while. He was like my go-to horse for a while. I was like, I'll look after him in I think his name's Herschel or something. That might not be his name, but whatever it is. I'll look after Buell for him. And he accompanied me on the final mission where your horse dies.
Oh no!
So it was like a double whammy. Like Arthur got off the horse and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, boy, thank you," and gives like this like heartfelt moment and it was like a double bad thing. I was like, "No, that's Buell as well." It's like it's absolutely just crumbled my life in half. But yeah, I think that was my favourite one actually out of all of them. And that one in particular is not really interesting if you look at what you're doing. Like you go fishing with him and go hunting with him, but it's just like it was just nice at that time in the game where with Arthur managing to build like a relationship with someone, and have a friendship before he died, and then he ended up dying before him.
Yeah,
but absolute stinker.
There's just loads of little missions like that are just, I don't know. They don't. You could go for the whole game and not play it, and it wouldn't change the outcome. But if you missed it, you'd be gutted if you heard about that, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. Of course you would. That's why I made it a point to try and do what I could story-wise and side quest-wise before doing much of the story. So the strangers are definitely high points again. Random encounters. I think these first started in Red Dead, I remember. And they're basically like little blips that turn up on the radar, and it's usually someone asking for help or someone who wants to talk to you or something like that, and they can lead to all sorts of random things. What did you make of the different encounters that you have? Sometimes they're a trap, sometimes they're people with genuine needs, sometimes it's just someone like there's a war veteran who just wants to chat with you because he's lonely or whatever. Did you partake in many of these random encounters? Yeah, again,
it's just... There's sort of if you're just faffing around and you're not really doing anything, I'd normally stop and just see what would unfold. And then if you're in a rush, you can or you're going to a mission and you've actually got something planned, you can just blow past them. Again, it makes no difference, but you have some sort of memorable stuff happen. There's always a bloke bent over sorting a horse out, and if you take his attention away, he's like putting some horseshoes on the back of a horse and he's hammering them away. And you talk to him and he looks up and then the horse kicks him and kills him, and it's like, brutal. Or like you say, there'll be some bird that's been falsely accused trapped in the back of a wagon, and you can shoot them and then free her. And there was one bloke I helped out. I sucked some poison out of it. He had some snake poison. I sucked it out.
What was going to say then? Don't muddle your words. Sucking snakes and poison, all that. You could get all sorts.
And I took the poison out, and then I went to Valentine, and he was sat outside, and he said, "Oh, go into the gun shop, whatever you want, it's on me." And it sort of all comes back, and it is quite clever how they do it all, and how, that helped me out at the time. I think I bought a shotgun, helped me out big time.
Yeah, they're definitely good. One of the random ones I had, I camped quite a lot. So on the horse, you can like camp and like sleep or cook some food or craft or whatever, some like new features they've got. And I did it in sort of that area where you end up with, where I think the main gang in that area, the Mumfords or something like that. I can't remember their exact names, like the cannibal ones, basically.
Yeah.
What are they bloody called? It's going to really annoy Murphy. That's it. They so I just set the camp up, and then as I set the camp up, one of them walked behind me and was like, "This is Murphy territory. Stick 'em up!" Like, tried to rob me, and I was like, "Oh, I thought I was in like a safe space here." I mean, I put Deadeye on and blew him away, but it was just like I wasn't expecting to have something interfere with me whilst I was just setting up a camp to cook some food.
Yeah, I had that a couple of times as well. And then one of the lines is when you aim your gun at them. I think Arthur Morgan says, "I'm not some poor innocent bystander" or something, and then, like you say, they get blown to Kingdom Come. But it is good, things like that. Like you say, you think you're safe and you sort of relax because you're like, just have a little bit of food, and then something like that kicks off. It just adds to the game, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. They make quite a big point of hunting and legendary animals that you can hunt. So the hunting part obviously is for gathering food, which you need to eat and maintain your health and stamina and things like that. So there's a few little survival elements in there, quite light touch. But you've got legendary animals as well. How did you find the hunting mechanics? I know you're a massive fan of a bow and arrow, and this gives you the perfect opportunity to use that.
Yeah, I really like the hunting. I just do that for hours. Literally, they could give me no missions and just the animals, and I could just wander around for 10 hours quite happily and just hunt stuff. Yeah, I like the legendary animals. I like the fact it just randomly will say you have entered into a legendary animal, and then you have to track it through and follow the little question mark, pick up the fur, pick up the blood. And then some animals are easy, there's a few strange, like a legendary beaver, that goes down pretty easily. But you actually find that alligator from the mission. Yeah, you said about that. You have to go back and kill that as a legendary animal, and that's a bastard to kill. That thing is.
Yeah, it popped up on my map the other day when I was strolling through, and I was like, there it is. I thought it was around there somewhere. But yeah, that's a nice little side sort of activity to do. I think there's 15, something like that.
Yeah,
legendary animals that you can track, and there's like a legendary cougar. I think there's a legendary panther out there as well to get hold of, but. They're essentially like special animals or like unique animals that have their own fur, and if you skin them and trade their pelts in, you can get rewards and craft new bits and pieces. At the Animal Trapper, as he's called, he's like the guy that can craft new gun belts or hats, jackets, trousers, all that sort of stuff. But I don't think you was a big fan of the Trapper's fashion, was you? What he had to offer?
No, I didn't like. He just puts. I don't know. I just thought they just look stupid. Like he'd have you can wear like a coat that's got like a bear head on it, or a hat with a snake
on it. Out there.
Or a snake, or you can have a white buffalo skin or a beaver hat. And I just preferred him to look like a fucking horrible bastard. I just thought he looked a bit comical with a bear on his head or something like that. That's all.
So you were hunting the animals just for the hunt. You didn't want any of the outfits or anything. You just wanted to kill them.
Yeah, just a sick individual. Yeah, just a
hunting bastard.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Dirty prat. Fishing as well. That's sort of like a new added thing in there. Not the most in-depth thing. Adkins claims it's like the real thing, but I didn't. Yeah, I didn't find it that challenging. I've sat there 2 days and caught nothing. I definitely didn't do that.
I didn't get snarled up in the trees once either. So
I didn't have to snap up or anything like that. There's none of that bullshit to deal with. But there's legendary fish as well, isn't there? So there's several of those that you can go and hunt and trade in, and that links into like a collectible or a stranger mission. Like you meet this fisherman who wants you to go and catch all these legendary fish and post them to him, and they give you rewards and whatnot. And that was a nice little distraction. And then I think one thing that carried over from the first game that I didn't get too much involved with in the original is the challenges. So there's different categories like a herbalist, a survivor, like a weapons expert, a bandit, things like that. And if you do carry out certain actions in the game, it unlocks new gun belts to put onto Arthur or John, and I think they give you some like buffs as well to your stats temporarily or permanently. But this is the one thing that you said you wanted to mention that you wasn't overly impressed with the challenges. Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, this was something that bugged me in the first one as well, and it's something you actually text me about, and it's the fact that with the challenges, it will say. So say we do the herbalist, you have to find different herbs, pick three peats of sage.
Yeah.
And then the next one will be pick 3 different types of berry. You have to do it in the order they say. You can't. You could be surrounded by berries, pick all the fucking berries you want, but if you've not picked the sage, you won't unlock the next one. And I just found it a bit frustrating. That's all. Maybe I just think that they could be unlocked all simultaneously at the same time. Yeah. And then you've just got 10 to break through. But that really is nitpicking. That is, nitpicking to the highest order.
I'd agree with that, because I think there's one in the weapons expert, or maybe I can't remember what it was now, but you had to kill 3 birds of prey with a tomahawk. And you know how I'd see an eagle every minute I'd see an eagle and I'd think I'll just leave. I wouldn't think about killing it with a tomahawk. As soon as I need to do that,
there's not a fucking bird anywhere, is there?
No, they've all fucked off or migrated for the summer or whatever. They'd all disappeared, and I was like, Jesus Christ! And I was finding it frustrating to find them. And again, I agree. I'd prefer it if they just said, "Here's Bandit. Here's 10 challenges. As you do them, you'll get this checked off."
Yeah.
But that is nitpicking, I guess, at the end of the day. But they want to prolong those and make them a challenge, I guess. But
yeah.
I still think if you've done it in the game, it should still register it and say, "Oh, you're 40% through this one already," but not to be for Rockstar. In terms of side quests and what, I don't think there's much more to mention. I mean, there is more to mention because there's lots to do in the game in terms of like collectibles. You can collect cigarette cards, find dinosaur bones, all these different. There's dream catchers you can find. There's tons of stuff to do in this game, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's an absolute shitload outside of the main story, even the side quests. Is there enough really though for a £45 game?
Yeah, more than enough. There's
too much, if anything.
Yeah. There's just so much. I mean, I've gone. I don't know how many hours I put into it. It frightened me, and there's so much yet to do. I mean, I think I found 2 dinosaur bones. There's carvings.
I found one.
Oh, have you?
I found 1 dinosaur bone in 100 hours.
I don't know how many there is to get. I don't know. I can't remember.
Quite a few, like 30, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
On the higher ones.
And then there's ones where there's carvings. You have to find old carvings that are on the side of the wall. Again, I think I found one. The cigarette cards. What else is there? Like you say, the dream catchers. There's treasure maps.
Treasure maps.
Find the treasure. There's the gunslinger one. Have you done that one as well? Where it gives you old pictures of gunslingers and you have to interview them. And then
that's it.
You can collect their guns, and there's like a lot of unique weapons to find, and there's just so much to do. It's sort of. I actually thought when I started it, the first few hours it introduced you to this, and I was like, "Fucking, this is well overwhelming. I'm well out of my depth here. I need to, I could do with taking on a PA to help me out." But there is just so much to do, and if you really wanted to clear down the map, you could be here for, hours and days doing it, literally days.
There's a hell of a lot to do in the game. Just for reference, you've done 90 hours.
Jesus, that's embarrassing. 90 hours. Fucking hell.
Well, I've done 137.
Wow.
Frog's clocked in at 86.
Christ. He had a week off work as well, didn't he?
I think that's all he did was play it, yeah. And the good thing about what we've mentioned there is that we've not even mentioned online's just launched in beta form.
Yeah.
There's a whole other mode there if people like online. I know that Parky and Chappers and people like that basically got the game, and Hall probably got the game to play online. So even if you, for whatever reason, aren't interested in the single player, there's another bloody online mode there to play.
It's just Rockstar, isn't it? They tick all the boxes. They can do it all. They can do no wrong. They've created one of the best, sort of with GTA, they created one of the best sort of story campaign open world games, and then the online was just massive as well. You could go. Wouldn't even have to touch the story. And if you're a big fan of online games, that would be the one to go to. It'd be one of the biggest releases of the year, and I expect this will be fairly similar. If you can get like a gang or a posse together, 6 or 7 of you can go out and run riot and rob trains and banks and all sorts. So they tick all the boxes, don't they, Rockstar?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a little go on the online. I think there's 4 of us on there: Parky, Chappers, and was there 3 of us? Parky, Chappers, myself, and Adkins. The first thing I did was hogtie some random bloke that was in the game. All 4 of us got round him and started killing him and following. It was causing havoc. We were.
I thought you were going to say you hogtied Adkins or something like that.
No, I think I hogtied. I lassoed Parky off his horse to start with, just to show him who's boss and say, look, don't be getting on your horse until I've said so.
I'm the Dutch of this online.
I'm the Dutch of this operation here. But yeah, it's still in beta form. I don't think I'll play it too much until it's full release, and then maybe I'll dive into it properly. But there's like a campaign to go through on that, where you can make decisions during like the 4-player co-op story and be like bandit or good guy again, and it changes the different missions you get afterwards. So it's crazy what they've done with this game.
Yeah, he's mental, isn't it?
Going back to the basics of controls and gameplay, how did you find the game itself to play? Because if we've mentioned all this great stuff, but if it's no good shooting or riding around, then it all can crumble quite easily.
No, I think it's just fairly sort of intuitive system. If you played the old one, you'll be pretty familiar with everything. The controls aren't too dissimilar. The only thing was that you on the old one you could carry as much guns. Every single gun on your back, you'd have 16 different rifles or whatever, but you can only carry 2 sort of two-handed weapons on you. The rest are stored in your horse. You have to go back to your horse to get it. I actually quite liked it. I thought it was quite good because it made you think. Look at what I'm going to do. What am I doing here? Am I going to need to go in silent and take a bow, or am I going to go in all guns a-blazing and take 2 shotguns, or a long distance rifle and then maybe a shotgun? You can sort of cover all bases. So I quite liked it, and it made you think a little bit more. I thought it was quite a good addition doing that.
Yeah, I like that as well. Although it annoyed people, I thought I quite like the idea to think about what might happen and pick the right weapons for it. And there are other things like your horse can only hear you after a certain distance, so you don't magically like teleport to where you are.
Yeah.
And you build a bond with a horse, don't you? You can like name them and build them up, and they can die.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know how many horses you went through. I'd imagine quite a lot. But
honestly, I didn't. The only horse that died under my reign was at the end. That was the only one.
Same here. Because you get like a horse reviver, can't you?
Yeah. I did. I used that a couple of times. Yeah. But no, I found a decent horse early on in the game, and then I kept that all the way through. Very sad to see him go.
Did you name it?
I think I called it Max, I think. Don't know why. It was a girl as well. I didn't find that out till after I named it.
Oh no, it could be Maxine.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You let off the hook there. That was. And the last thing on the gameplay wise, and then we'll move into the graphics and then close it down because we've been on a while. They introduced things like you had to top up your health, stamina, and Deadeye with eating and taking tonics and whatnot. And over time, that would deplete. You could get underweight, which would cause you to lose stamina quickly, but make you move quicker, and did all these sort of different, like light touch sort of survival elements. I think if you slept as well, or you were tired after a certain amount of time, your stats would deplete quicker. But what did you think of introducing things like that? Because they've never really done anything that in depth before. And some people might think, oh, hang on, that sounds like it's a little bit overbearing. I've got to worry about him having a shit every 5 minutes.
To be honest, when I first started it, I did find it a bit of a hassle. But
I didn't know what was going on when I first started it.
No, I didn't get it either. And then the horse was dirty, and I was like, oh, for fuck, the horse is dirty. It's just run through mud. And then you have to brush the horse, or you'd have to go for a bath, or your clothes would get dirty, and you'd have to eat, and then you'd be underweight. But actually, when you sort of, after a few hours of playing it, you get in the swing of it, and it's not actually that complicated. You just need to sort of just remember to have a little camp. And and I remember, I think it was Logan that said he had like a routine, and I found it quite funny. He'd get up in the morning, have a pot of stew, have a little wander around the camp, and you do sort of get into a habit. So I'd go to a camp, make a campsite, brush the horse, feed the horse, have a bit of food, and then have a kip, and then wake up. And it doesn't really detract that much from the game. You just have to, when it gets dark, you think, I'll have a kip. It wasn't too much of a hassle.
No, I quite liked it, and it added like extra sort of role playing elements into it, which we haven't had before. I think if they did that in GTA, it wouldn't work as well, but because it's the West and you're surviving in the outside, it felt right. Yeah, you're not going to set up camp in the middle of a Hollywood boulevard, are you, or something like that? No, not with Trevor. He's not going to be doing that, is he? Just to sit down and have a shoe or whatever. So I think it made it feel like the Revenant, the game. I kind of got that feeling of like all the pelts that you can get as well, and I don't know. There seems like there's a lot of similarities there, and there's this big fuck off bear as well that can fucking rip you in half if you're not paying attention. Graphics, presentation, performance, that side of things. Rockstar, normally known for producing high quality in this area. Have they done it again with Red Dead Redemption 2, or is it a bit of a letdown? Yeah, it looked amazing. I would go as far to say it's the best looking game I've seen, I think. I would
Uncharted 4 was very good, and God of War was good. I think, I don't know, I'd have to play God of War again, but it's between God of War and Red Dead. I mean, you just be like, I'd wander around and go up to the top of a mountain and look out. I just think the distances you could see and what was going on in the background, you could still see birds flying about, you could still see animals like miles away, like quite a distance away down at the rivers drinking and things. You could still see trains going on at great distances. So yeah, it was impressive the way it looked. I really was impressed with it.
Yeah, scope of it was huge. So it's hard to compare because, you know, God of War's a big game as well, but there's it's not a living, breathing world, is it?
No, yeah.
Where there's like animals interacting with each other and people wandering around. There's a set path that you follow, and that yes, you can branch off and go back and do things and challenges and whatever, but it's not like a world that you live in like GTA. Like Red Dead. So they're two different types of games, but it runs it close, which is impressive considering the scope of it. And I remember I walked up a mountain and you walk through the snow and it makes like a realistic track mark behind you of where you're walking. And I got to this like iced over lake and there was a bear in the middle of it and there were like 3 wolves attacking it. They were like having a ruck, just like having little jabs at him and trying to get him. And then eventually he just went mental and like scrapped one of them. They all run off and scuttled off. I killed the bear. I was like, right, let's just kill the bear and be done with it and hope the wolves don't come back. So first of all, I was impressed they're interacting with each other, all the animals. Like they must have just bumped into each other and that standoff happened. And then secondly, when I went to walk on the ice, Arthur like slips.
Yeah,
like, you'd run a little bit and stop, and he'd slide and slip, and like he'd just react so realistically to the surroundings and what was going on. I was like, wow, that's just an extra level of detail there. Most games would have gone, we can't do ice, just don't put it in.
yeah, or just make him run normally.
Yeah, just make him run normally. But they've added like this fucking ice simulator.
Yeah,
roll around up there. It's incredible.
No, it was good. And when you kill an animal, if you skin it, leave it.
It's brutal, isn't it?
Then the birds will come down and eat it, and the coyotes come and eat it, and it's just, you know, like you say, the level of they don't even need to do that. It's pointless, but it just everything just adds up over time. These little bits, and you just think, you know, this is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, I think we'll call this to a close. So Red Dead Redemption 2 spoiled. I mean, there's still stuff we haven't talked about. I've read or heard about other Easter eggs that I don't think either of us have bumped into, and it's just an incredible game, really. Definitely a front runner for Game of the Year. Going to put you on the spot. Would this be currently your 2018 Game of the Year, or has something like Spider-Man or a God of War or something else managed to pip out Red Dead Redemption 2?
It's difficult. I don't know.
This isn't your official vote. I'm just asking you on the. So don't worry about committing to it because you can change your mind offline. But
between this and God of War, I think this would pip it just because of the level of detail and just the amazingness of it all, and the scope of it, and the hugeness of it, and the detail in it. It would just pip it. But between one of them two, but I think this would take it. Yeah.
That axe though.
That axe, it comes back to you. This is tomahawks though, so
and bow and arrows.
And bow and arrows, so
because you could argue that the bow and arrows in God of War are a bit of a letdown with Atreus.
Yeah, you can't use them yourself, can you?
Yeah.
But tough call.
We'll find out when we do our votes for the Game of the Year. Right, that'll do. Cheers for that, Biff. A very in-depth discussion about Red Dead Redemption 2, and we'll be back at some point in the future with another piece of video games, sport, film, telly content. Just follow us on all the social medias at Dimp Digital and you'll be informed of that. But nothing more for us to say though, apart from thanks for your time and ta-da.